Stoicism was a profound school of philosophy which emerged in Athens and was founded by Zeno of Citium, a philosophy which derives its name from the Stoa Poikile, or Painted Porch, where Zeno and his disciples first gathered to discuss their ideas. A philosophy which has inspired and continues to inspire generations of thinkers and leaders. But what is it really about, and what has its journey through time been like? The philosophical lineage of Stoicism can be traced through three key phases: the early Stoa, the middle Stoa, and the late Stoa, with the latter being immortalized by Roman thinkers such as Seneca, Epictetus, and the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. At its core, Stoicism says that the path to eudaimonia, that is, flourishing or living a virtuous life, lies in mastering the art of inner peace by aligning oneself with nature and reason. It says that the universe is governed by a rational order, often personified as the Logos, and that human beings, as rational creatures, should aspire to live in harmony with this order. Central to the Stoic thesis is the dichotomy of control. Certain things are within our power, such as our thoughts and actions, while external circumstances, such as wealth, health, or reputation, are not. True wisdom, therefore, involves focusing exclusively on what we can control and accepting the rest with equanimity. These philosophers advocate four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, to serve as guiding principles for a life of moral integrity, independent of the cruel hand of fate. The Stoic sage is therefore one who remains untroubled by pain, misfortune, or loss, recognizing that such events are beyond their control and therefore unworthy of distress. Although they had a radical stance on emotion, contrary to common misunderstandings, the Stoics did not advocate for an emotionless existence, but rather for the moderation of destructive passions, like fear, anger, envy, through the cultivation of rational detachment, not to be confused with apathy in the modern sense, but rather a disciplined emotional resilience. The critics. However cool it might appear to be, Stoicism has not been without its critics. One of the earliest counterpoints came from the Epicureans, who, in stark contrast, believed that the pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain constituted the highest good. They viewed the Stoic emphasis on virtue and indifference to pleasure as unnecessarily austere and contrary to the natural human inclination toward happiness. Later critics, particularly during the Enlightenment, argued that Stoicism's fatalistic acceptance of external events could foster passivity or resignation in the face of injustice or social progress. But ultimately, the lasting appeal of Stoicism lies in its timeless message: while we cannot control the external world, we can control our inner world, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes. In a time where anxiety, stress, and uncertainty reign, Stoicism offers a framework for cultivating resilience, wisdom, and tranquility. It invites us to confront life's inevitable difficulties not with despair, but with a calm, reasoned composure, secure in the knowledge that virtue and clarity of mind are within our grasp, no matter the storm that rages without. Now on to the history of its development. The history of Stoicism is divided into three major phases: the early, middle, and the late Stoa. Each of these periods reflects a different stage in its development, as Stoicism moved from its founding in Athens to its spread and adaptation in Roman culture, and then eventually to its enduring influence throughout Western philosophy. The early Stoa. The roots of Stoicism lie in the teachings of Zeno of Citium, a philosopher from Cyprus who arrived in Athens around 300 BCE. Disillusioned by earlier schools of thought such as Cynicism and Platonism, Zeno sought to create a new philosophical system that could address practical ethical concerns. Zeno's Stoicism was a response to the chaotic and often harsh realities of life in the Hellenistic world, where political instability and constant warfare made questions about how to live a good life especially pressing. He argued that happiness could only be achieved through living in accordance with nature and reason. Stoicism, therefore, emphasized self-control, virtue, rationality. Zeno's teachings focused on the idea that everything in the universe is interconnected by a divine rational order, referred to as logos. To live in harmony with this natural order was to live a good life. Zeno's successors, Cleanthes and Chrysippus, further developed the system. Chrysippus, in particular, is credited with solidifying Stoic logic and ethics. He was a prolific writer who composed hundreds of works, and his contributions are considered foundational for the system's intellectual coherence. He is said to have elaborated on the Stoic concept of logos and fate, stressing that human beings must accept fate because everything happens according to the rational order of the cosmos. The Middle Stoa. The Middle Stoa represents the period when Stoicism spread from Greece to Rome. As Greece fell under Roman control, Roman intellectuals began to take an interest in Greek philosophy, including Stoicism. During this time, Stoicism began to evolve in response to the new social and political realities of the Roman Empire. These Stoic philosophers of Middle Stoa brought Stoicism to Rome. Unlike the earlier Stoics, they made Stoicism more accessible and practical for the Roman elite. They softened some of the more rigid aspects of Zeno's and Chrysippus's teachings, focusing less on metaphysical concerns and more on ethics. For them, Stoicism was a guide for how to live a virtuous and honorable life, particularly for those involved in public service. They emphasized the social duties of the Stoic, stressing the importance of living in harmony not only with nature but also with society. The Late Stoa. The late Stoa is marked by the flourishing of Stoic thought in the Roman Empire and the contributions of some of the most famous Stoic philosophers, including Seneca, Epictetus, and the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. These thinkers adapted Stoicism to address the moral and practical concerns of life in the Roman imperial world, further emphasizing its ethical dimensions. Seneca. A Roman statesman and advisor to the Emperor Nero, Seneca is known for his letters and essays on Stoicism. His works, such as Letters from a Stoic and On the Shortness of Life, offer practical advice on how to apply Stoic principles to everyday life. Seneca emphasized the importance of rational self-control, the transience of life, and the need to cultivate inner tranquility. He wrote extensively about the Stoic virtue of apatheia, or freedom from destructive emotions, and advocated for living a life of simplicity and wisdom. Epictetus, born a slave, Epictetus later gained his freedom and became one of the most influential Stoic teachers in Rome. Epictetus urged his followers to accept what they could not change and to instead focus their efforts on what was within their power, their own thoughts and actions. He believed that true freedom came from mastering one's own mind and emotions, and his teachings were highly practical, aimed at helping individuals find peace in the face of suffering and adversity. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Roman emperors, he is perhaps the most famous Stoic philosopher. His Meditations, written as a series of personal reflections, is one of the most important Stoic texts. He applied Stoic principles to his role as emperor, using them to guide his decisions and maintain his composure during the political and military and personal challenges of his reign and life. His writings reflect the Stoic ideal of maintaining virtue and integrity in the face of power, wealth, and external pressures. The Stoicism of the late Stoa was focused on personal resilience and became a philosophy of endurance, self-discipline, and virtue, particularly suited to the hardships of life in the Roman Empire. The Stoic ideal of virtus, a life of moral excellence, was especially appealing to Roman rulers and statesmen who found in Stoicism a guide for governing wisely and justly. Decline and rebirth. After the fall of the Roman Empire, Stoicism began to wane as a formal school of philosophy. Its teachings were eclipsed by the rise of Christianity, which offered a different metaphysical and ethical framework. However, many Stoic ideas, particularly those concerning self-discipline, virtue, and the importance of rational control over emotions, were absorbed into Christian thought. Early Christian theologians such as Augustine drew on Stoic ideas in their own writings. During the Renaissance, Stoicism experienced a revival as classical texts were rediscovered and studied anew. Stoicism later had a profound influence on the development of modern Western philosophy, particularly in the works of Enlightenment thinkers such as Immanuel Kant, who admired its rationalism and ethics. In the 20th and 21st centuries, Stoicism has enjoyed a resurgence, particularly in the realms of psychology, self-help, and leadership. The development of cognitive behavioral therapy, which focuses on changing negative thought patterns, is often compared to Stoic practices of emotional regulation. Contemporary thinkers and public figures have embraced Stoicism as a practical philosophy for navigating the stresses and uncertainties of modern life. From its humble beginnings in ancient Athens to its profound influence on Roman thought and its resurgence in modern times, through the ages, Stoicism has endured as one of the most practical and resilient schools of philosophy. Its teachings on virtue, self control, and rationality continue to inspire individuals seeking to live meaningful and fulfilling lives, making it a philosophy that transcends time and culture.